Under the silver light of the twin moons, the queen stood alone on her palace balcony. Her eyes, once full of power and pride, now carried the weight of years of sorrow. The wind played softly with her golden hair as she looked up at the stars, silent witnesses to the night her daughter vanished. The kingdom had long moved on, but a mother's heart never forgets. Somewhere, deep in her soul, she still felt her daughter's presence like a faint echo that refused to fade. Behind her, the royal guards stood at attention, their armor shining faintly under the moonlight. They dared not speak. They had seen their queen wait here many nights before, staring into the endless dark sky. But tonight felt different. The air carried something strange, a quiet tension, a whisper of change. The queen closed her eyes and whispered softly to the stars, "Where are you, my child?" Far beyond the royal city, in the silent void of space, something flickered. The control room deep inside the palace suddenly came alive with alarms. A young officer ran toward the balcony, breathless. "Your Majesty," he cried, "an unidentified ship has entered royal airspace. No response to our signals." The queen turned slowly, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. "Show me," she commanded. Moments later, she stood before a massive holographic display. The ship was old, battered, and silent, like a ghost drifting through the stars. No royal mark, no known signature. The guards whispered among themselves, fear spreading like wildfire. Could it be raiders, rebels? But the queen said nothing. She felt a pulse in her heart, a warmth that made her tremble. "No," she whispered under her breath. "It's her." The ship moved closer, breaking through the clouds. The capital city stirred as citizens looked up, pointing toward the sky. The queen stepped outside again, her golden gown trailing behind her. Her heart pounded, years of pain and longing mixed with a sudden rush of hope. The palace grounds filled with guards ready for battle, yet she raised her hand, stopping them. "No one fires," she said. "Let it land." The ship descended with a low hum, its engine sputtering like a dying breath. Dust and wind swirled across the royal courtyard as it touched down. The queen's eyes never left it. The ramp opened slowly, creaking as if it hadn't moved in years. A heavy silence fell over the crowd. Even the wind seemed to stop. A shadow appeared inside the ship's doorway. The queen's breath caught in her throat. The figure stepped forward, tall, graceful, with long hair glimmering in the dim light. The queen's lips trembled. The crowd gasped. It was her daughter, but the queen's heart froze as she noticed something else. The princess wasn't alone. In each of her hands, she held the tiny fingers of two small human children, a boy and a girl, both with bright, curious eyes and faces full of innocence. The guards murmured in confusion. The royal advisor stepped forward, whispering urgently, "Your Majesty, they are human children." The queen didn't answer. She stepped down from her throne platform, her eyes locked on her daughter. The years between them vanished in that moment. The princess stood still at the base of the ship, her gaze trembling between fear and love. Her voice, soft as the wind, reached the queen's ears. "Mother!" The word broke the silence. The queen felt her heart shatter and heal at once. She rushed forward, ignoring the gasps and protests of her guards. When she reached her daughter, she stopped, unable to speak. Tears filled her eyes. "You came back," she whispered. The princess nodded, her voice shaking. "I had to. They are part of me now." She looked down at the two children clinging to her gown. The boy hid behind her leg. The girl stared curiously at the queen's crown. The queen knelt down, her royal robe brushing the ground. She looked into the children's eyes, seeing both strangeness and something deeply familiar. The boy's eyes, blue like the ocean, reminded her of the man she once saw only in dreams, a human diplomat long gone. A faint smile touched her lips. "You are safe now," she said softly. The princess reached for her mother's hand. "Mother, I'm sorry. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't come back until now." The queen took her hand, squeezing gently. "You don't need to explain now, my child. You are home." But as the two women embraced, a shadow passed over the queen's face. She could feel the eyes of the court upon them, the whispers of disapproval, the stir of fear. A human connection in the royal bloodline would not be easily forgiven. The queen straightened, her expression turning regal once more. "No one will harm them," she said firmly. "They are under my protection." The guards bowed their heads, uncertain but obedient. The queen turned back to her daughter. "Tomorrow we will speak of where you have been." she said softly. But tonight you rest, you and your children. As they walked together toward the palace gates, the queen's heart swelled with a strange mix of joy and dread. The daughter she had lost was finally home, but not alone and not unchanged. Behind them, the ship sat silent in the courtyard, its metal hull marked with strange human symbols. The stars above shimmered faintly as if watching in secret. Inside the palace, lights glowed warmly. The queen guided her daughter through the grand hall, past portraits of ancestors who would never have accepted such a reunion. Yet something about the moment felt destined, an old love reborn through pain, a forbidden story still unfolding. That night, as the palace doors closed behind them, the queen knew one thing for certain. Peace had returned to her heart, but chaos was coming to her kingdom. The palace was alive with whispers the next morning. Servants moved quickly through marble halls, trying to hide their curiosity. Everyone had seen it: the mysterious ship, the queen's tears, and the return of the long-lost princess. News spread through the kingdom faster than light. The queen's daughter has returned, they said, and she brought human children with her. In the great throne room, golden light streamed through tall glass windows. The queen sat upon her throne, her face calm but her mind storming with thoughts. Across from her stood her daughter, the once vanished princess, now a woman grown, her eyes full of secrets and memories. The two children stood close to her, holding on to her gown, their small hands trembling as the court stared at them with suspicion. The royal advisor, Lord Heir, stepped forward. His voice was careful but cold. "Your Majesty, with respect, we must question her. Years have passed. We need to know where she has been and why she returns with them." His eyes flicked to the children as if they were something unnatural. The queen's hand tightened on her armrest. "You will show respect to my daughter," she said softly, but her tone carried the force of command. The princess lowered her head. "Mother, please, let me explain," the queen nodded gently. "You owe me no apology, child. Only truth." The princess took a slow breath. Her voice trembled. "After my ship crashed, I thought I would die. I landed on a small blue world and full of water and sky. Humans found me. They were afraid at first, but one man, he wasn't." She smiled faintly, remembering. "He saved me. He took me in." "His name was Daniel," the court murmured. "A human," one noble whispered. The queen's eyes softened. "Go on." "We lived in secret," the princess continued, "for years. He taught me their ways, their language. He was kind, brave, and he loved me." Her eyes glistened as she looked at her children. "And I loved him." A heavy silence filled the room. The queen could feel the pain in her daughter's words, the kind that only love and loss could create. Lord Heir spoke again, his tone sharp. "So the father of these children was human?" The princess looked at him coldly. "Yes, and he died protecting us." The queen rose slowly from her throne. The weight of her crown felt heavier than ever. She walked down the steps, each one echoing across the hall. When she reached her daughter, she placed a hand on her cheek. "You suffered much," she whispered, "and yet you returned." "Why now?" The princess hesitated. "Because we were hunted. I couldn't keep them safe anymore. The human world was no longer safe for us. I had nowhere else to go." The queen's heart ached. "Then you were right to come home, but not everyone agreed." Voices rose in anger and fear. "Humans cannot enter the royal bloodline," one elder shouted. "They are dangerous. They will bring ruin to us all." The queen turned, her eyes flashing with power. "Enough!" she commanded. The hall fell silent instantly. "These children are under my protection. Any who threaten them will answer to me." The queen turned her gaze to the stars. "Perhaps he was," she whispered. "But the court will not see it that way. They will fear what they do not understand." "I can leave again if I must," the princess said quietly. "I don't want to bring danger to your throne." The queen shook her head. "No, I lost you once. I will not lose you again. Whatever comes, we will face it together." In the shadows beyond the garden wall, unseen by them, a royal guard watched silently and whispered into a small communicator. "The council will not be pleased. She plans to keep them." Somewhere deep in the palace, Lord Heir received the message. His face hardened. "Then we must act before the queen's love blinds her completely." Back in the garden, the children ran to their mother, laughing as they held glowing flowers. The princess knelt and hugged them tightly. For the first time in years, she felt peace. But above them, a storm was quietly gathering, one that would soon test the limits of love, loyalty, and blood. The queen placed her hand over her daughter's shoulder and whispered, "No matter what happens, remember this, you are my child, and they are part of my heart too." As the night deepened, the palace lights glimmered like golden fireflies. Beautiful yet fragile, the queen smiled faintly, unaware that the very walls around her now hid secrets and betrayal. The calm before the storm had begun. The night was quiet, but inside the queen's chambers the air felt heavy with questions. The queen sat near the large crystal window, her golden robe flowing softly around her. A gentle light from the moons painted her face in silver. She had ordered the guards away. Tonight she wanted truth, not formality, not politics, just a mother and her daughter. The princess stood before her holding a small crystal locket in her hands. Inside it glowed a faint blue light. She looked tired yet peaceful, as if carrying both pain and strength within her heart. For a long moment they said nothing. The silence was not empty. It was full of memories neither could touch. Finally the queen spoke softly. "Tell me everything, from the beginning." "No lies, no fear." The princess nodded, her voice trembling. "The night my ship crashed, I remember fire. And then darkness. I woke up in a forest, cold, hurt, and alone. The air was strange. The gravity lighter. I knew I was far from home." She looked down, smiling faintly. "That's when I saw him." "Daniel," the queen said gently. The princess nodded. "He was human. He found me lying near a river. I thought he would fear me, but he didn't. He offered his hand. I remember how warm it felt. He said, 'Don't be afraid. You're safe now.'" Her eyes grew distant as she spoke. "He took me to his home, a small wooden house by the edge of the forest. He hid me from others. He said the world wouldn't understand me. At first I didn't trust him, but he was kind. He taught me how to live among humans, how to cook, how to speak their language. He made me laugh. I had forgotten how to laugh, Mother." The queen listened quietly, her eyes glistening with tears. "We spent years together," the princess continued. "He showed me the beauty of small things. Rain on leaves, the smell of bread baking, the warmth of a fire. And slowly I began to love him. Not as a rescuer, but as a man." She smiled through tears. "He used to say love doesn't care about blood or stars. He said if two hearts are brave enough, the universe will bend for them." The queen looked at her daughter, her heart breaking and healing at once. "And the children?" she whispered. The princess's eyes softened. "When they were born, he cried. He said they were miracles, half of the stars, half of Earth. He named them Aaron and Liana. He believed they were proof that love could unite worlds." Her smile faded slowly. "But happiness doesn't last forever. Someone found us. I don't know how, but they tracked me. Maybe a signal from my old ship. Strange ships began to appear in the sky, hunters. They wanted me, and the children." The queen's face darkened. "Who were they?" "I don't know," the princess said softly. "But they were not human. And not from our kingdom either. They were something else. They killed Daniel when he tried to protect us." Her voice broke. "He told me to run. His last words were, 'Keep them safe.'" Tears slipped down her cheeks. The queen rose from her seat and walked to her daughter, wrapping her arms around her. "My brave girl," she whispered, holding her close. "You carried love and pain across the stars." The princess leaned into her mother's embrace, her voice shaking. "I buried him near the forest under a tree that always bloomed with white flowers. I promised him I would come home one day, but I was afraid. I thought you would hate me, that you would see shame, not love." The queen drew back, touching her daughter's face. "Never, love is never shame, my child. It is the courage to give your soul to another." They stood together in silence, the bond between them reborn. The queen looked down at the glowing locket in her daughter's hand. "What is that?" The princess smiled sadly. "Daniel made it for me. It holds his voice. His last message. Play it," the queen said softly. The princess pressed the locket. A soft hum filled the air. Then a man's gentle voice spoke, slightly distorted but full of warmth. "If you're hearing this, it means I'm gone. Don't cry, my love. Tell our children who they are. Not human, not alien, but something greater. Tell them love built their blood." The queen turned away, her eyes full of tears. The room felt too still, too fragile for the moment it carried. The princess whispered, He believed someday humans and your kind would stand together. That my return would be the first step. The queen nodded slowly. Perhaps he was right, but not everyone in this kingdom will see it that way. Outside the chamber doors unseen, Lord Aeron listened. His face was pale with anger. A half-human heir? He muttered. This cannot be allowed. The queen's voice, gentle but firm, echoed from within. Tomorrow I will present you and your children to the court, she told her daughter. They will know the truth. They will know love can exist even beyond stars. The princess smiled faintly. You're risking everything for me. The queen brushed a tear from her daughter's cheek. A mother's heart has no fear. I lost you once and it nearly destroyed me. This time I will not let them take you again. Outside, the night wind howled softly against the palace walls. The stars burned brighter, as if watching their secret. The princess closed her eyes and held the locket to her chest. Somewhere far beyond the galaxies, she imagined Daniel smiling, proud, peaceful, and waiting among the stars. But in the shadows, danger was already moving. The council would not accept a human bloodline, and while the queen prepared for peace, others were preparing for betrayal. The past had returned. And so had the storm. The next morning, the royal palace was filled with noise. Messengers rushed through the marble halls, nobles whispered in corners, and guards tightened their patrols. Something was about to happen, something the kingdom had never seen before. The queen stood tall in the great hall, wearing her golden crown, her face calm, but her heart full of storm. She had decided that the truth would no longer hide in shadows. Today she would present her daughter and the 2 human children to the royal council. It was a risk, but she believed love deserved no chains. The giant doors opened with a deep echo. The princess walked in slowly, holding her children's hands. The hall went silent. Every eye turned toward her, some filled with shock, others with disgust. The nobles whispered among themselves. She brought them here, humans in the royal court. The queen raised her hand for silence. You all know the story, she began. My daughter, the heir to the throne, vanished years ago. Many believed her dead, but the stars have returned her to me. She has lived among humans and she has brought her children, my grandchildren. The court erupted in gasps and murmurs. One elder, his beard white and long, stepped forward angrily. Your Majesty, he said, bowing slightly, you are wise, but this is not right. The royal blood must remain pure. Mixing it with human blood is an insult to our ancestors. The queen's voice was calm but firm. Our ancestors built this kingdom on power. I wish to build it on peace, another noble shouted. Peace? Humans destroyed their own world once. They are weak, violent creatures. They will poison our throne. The princess took a step forward, her voice trembling but strong. Humans are not weak. They love, they protect, and they dream, just like us. My children are proof that love can exist beyond blood. The hall broke into argument, nobles shouting, guards unsure, advisors whispering plans. The queen stood silently, watching them fight, her heart breaking. She turned to her daughter. They are blind, she whispered. But I will open their eyes. Then Lord Aeron, her most trusted advisor, stepped forward. His eyes were cold. Your Majesty, he said respectfully, I beg you to reconsider. The council will not accept this. The people will rebel. If these children stay, the kingdom will fall. The queen looked at him, her gaze sharp. You speak of loyalty, Aeron, yet I hear fear in your voice. You forget, fear is the weapon of cowards. He bowed slightly, hiding his anger. I only wish to protect the crown. The queen turned away. The crown means nothing if it cannot protect my blood. The room fell silent again. The queen knelt beside her grandchildren, placing her hands on their small shoulders. From this day they will live under royal protection. Anyone who dares to harm them will face me. The nobles bowed reluctantly, though their faces showed fury. Later that night, the palace grew dark and quiet. The princess sat in her chamber, watching her children sleep. Her heart was heavy. She could feel danger in the air, like a shadow creeping closer. She knew not everyone would obey her mother's order. The door creaked open and the queen entered quietly. Her eyes were tired. They will fight us, she whispered. I saw it in their faces. Some of them will try to take the children. The princess looked up, fear flickering in her eyes. Then we must run, she said. I can't lose them too. Not like I lost Daniel. The queen sat beside her, holding her hand tightly. If you run, they will call it betrayal. If you stay, they will use you as a weapon. There is no safe choice. The princess's eyes filled with tears. Then what should I do, mother? The queen looked at her daughter with deep sorrow. You must do what I cannot. Protect your children even if it means leaving me again. The princess froze. You're asking me to go? I'm begging you to survive, the queen said softly. The council is meeting secretly tonight. I overheard Aaron's spies. They plan to take the children at dawn. They will call it purification of blood. The princess stood, her heart pounding. No, I won't let them touch my children. The queen nodded, tears in her eyes. I will delay them. You take the secret passage beneath the gardens. It leads to the old forest. Go before sunrise. The princess hugged her mother tightly, both crying silently. I don't want to lose you again, she whispered. The queen held her face gently. You won't lose me. You will carry me in your heart. And when the stars rise again, I will find you. As the first light of dawn touched the sky, the princess moved quietly through the palace halls, carrying her sleeping children. Her steps were light, her breath trembling. Every corner felt dangerous, every sound a threat. Suddenly, voices echoed from behind, a guard shouting, Stop her! Don't let her escape! Her heart raced. She ran through the long marble corridors, clutching her children close. The queen's words echoed in her mind. The secret passage. The old forest. She reached the hidden door behind the garden fountain and pressed her hand against the ancient stone. The wall shifted open with a soft rumble. She slipped inside just as torches flared behind her. The passage was dark and narrow, lit only by the glowing locket around her neck. Daniel's last gift. She whispered to her children, Hold on, my loves. We're almost safe. Behind her, Lord Aaron arrived in the garden, fury burning in his eyes. Find her, he roared. She cannot leave the palace alive. The princess ran through the tunnel, her breath ragged, her tears falling silently. Above her, the queen stood on the balcony watching the sunrise. She could hear the shouts of pursuit, but she kept her eyes on the horizon. Run, my daughter, she whispered. Run while there is still light. And as the sun rose over the kingdom, the queen's heart broke once more, torn between love and crown, between duty and blood. She knew the war had just begun. The forest was dark and endless, filled with whispering leaves and the cries of strange night creatures. The princess ran barefoot over the cold earth, her children clinging tightly to her arms. Her heart pounded with fear, but she didn't stop. Behind her, the sounds of pursuit echoed faintly. The sharp calls of soldiers, the distant bark of hounds. The locket around her neck glowed softly, guiding her path through the shadows. Hold on, she whispered to the children, her breath heavy. We just have to keep moving. Little Liana looked up at her mother, eyes wide with fear. Mama, I'm scared. The princess kissed her forehead gently. I know, my love. But we're going to a safe place, just a little farther. They moved deeper into the forest, the tall trees hiding them from the moon's light. Every sound, the crack of a branch, the call of an owl, made her heart race faster. She could still hear Lord Aaron's voice in her mind. She cannot leave the palace alive. She stumbled once, falling to her knees, clutching the children close. Her leg was bleeding, a small cut from the escape, but she pushed through the pain. We can't stop, she whispered to herself. Not yet. Then from behind the trees, a rustling sound came, slow, deliberate footsteps. Someone was there. She stood quickly, pulling her children behind her. Who's there? She shouted, her voice trembling but fierce. Show yourself! A tall figure stepped from the shadows. He wore dark armor, his face half hidden under a hood. The moonlight caught his eyes, calm human eyes. He raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. You don't need to be afraid, he said softly. I'm here to help. The princess's grip tightened around the locket. Help? You're one of them, aren't you? A spy of Lord Aaron. He shook his head slowly. No, I was sent by someone else. By who? She demanded. He took another step closer, his voice low. By your father, she froze. My father? He nodded. Before he died, Daniel sent me a message, a mission, really. He knew danger would come for you. He told me if that day ever arrived, I must find you and protect you no matter the cost. The princess's heart skipped a beat. Daniel? Sent you? Yes, the man said. My name is Kale. I served beside him once long ago. He saved my life. I owed him everything. Her suspicion softened slightly, but her eyes still held caution. If what you say is true, prove it. Kyle reached into his cloak and pulled out a small metallic ring. worn, scratched, but familiar. "He told me you'd recognize this," he said quietly. "He called it your promise ring," the princess gasped, covering her mouth. It was indeed the same ring Daniel had given her the night he told her he loved her, a simple silver band carved with tiny stars. She took it with shaking hands, tears filling her eyes. "It's really you," she whispered. "He trusted you." Cale nodded. "He told me that one day you might need me, and now you do." The forest wind blew softly between them, carrying the scent of rain. The princess felt her fear ease just a little. "Then help me protect them," she said, looking down at her children. "That's why I'm here," Cale replied. "But we must move fast. Aaron's soldiers are close. There's a cave beyond the river, hidden by the cliffs. You'll be safe there for the night." The princess hesitated, glancing back toward the palace in the distance. Her heart ached. "My mother," she whispered. Cale's voice softened. "The queen made her choice. She sent you away to live, not to die. Honor that." She nodded slowly, wiping her tears. "Then lead the way." They moved quickly through the forest, the sound of the river growing louder. The children clung to their mother, eyes heavy with exhaustion. Cale guided them with confidence, his step sure and silent. When they reached the river, Cale helped the princess cross. The cold water bit at her feet, but she didn't complain. On the other side, hidden by large stones, was a narrow cave. Inside it was warm and dry, lit by the faint blue glow of Cale's energy torch. "You can rest here," he said quietly. "I'll keep watch." The princess laid her children down on a soft patch of moss. She sat beside them, finally letting out a shaky breath. "Thank you," she said softly. "If not for you, we might not have made it." Kyle nodded but said nothing. He stood at the entrance, looking out into the forest. The moonlight touched his face, revealing a faint scar across his cheek. After a moment, the princess spoke again, her voice gentle. "You knew Daniel well?" Cale's expression softened. "He was like a brother to me. He spoke of you often, said your eyes reminded him of the stars he used to dream about." Her lips trembled. "He always said that." She looked down, tears glistening. "I thought I'd never hear those words again." Kyle turned toward her. "He loved you deeply. And he wanted you to live, to find peace even without him." The princess met his gaze, something fragile and unspoken passing between them. Not love, not yet, but the spark of understanding between two souls who shared the same loss. Suddenly Cale tensed, his hand going to his weapon. "Someone's coming," he whispered. The princess grabbed her children, her heart racing again. "How did they find us so soon?" Cale moved to the cave's entrance, scanning the trees. "We'll have to move again before dawn." He turned back to her, eyes steady. "Stay behind me. No matter what happens, I'll keep you safe." The princess nodded, clutching her children tightly. The night outside grew darker, the wind carrying distant voices, the sound of men searching. And as Cale stepped into the shadows, the princess realized that her escape had only just begun, and that fate had brought her not only danger, but perhaps another guardian written by the stars. The palace stood in silence. The once busy halls were quiet, the golden candles burning low, and the queen sat alone in the throne room. Her crown lay on the table beside her, and heavy, forgotten. Outside, rain lashed against the windows, echoing the storm that raged inside her heart. For years she had ruled with wisdom and calm, but tonight her heart was broken. Her daughter, her only child, was gone again. She had returned for only a few hours, only to vanish once more into the darkness. The queen's fingers trembled as she held the small locket her daughter had once worn as a child. Inside was a faded picture, a mother and baby smiling together. Her eyes glistened with tears. "Where are you, my star?" she whispered. "I waited so long just to hold you once more." The sound of footsteps echoed through the hall. Lord Aaron entered, his armor gleaming under the light. He bowed deeply, his tone cold and formal. "Your Majesty," he said, "our search teams have returned. There is no trace of the princess. It seems she has fled beyond the border." The queen looked up slowly, her eyes sharp despite the sorrow. "You mean you let her escape?" Aaron's jaw tightened. "She chose to betray her people, Your Majesty. She allied herself with humans, creatures unworthy of royal blood. My men did what they could." The queen rose from her seat. Her presence filled the hall, graceful yet fierce. "You forget yourself, Lord Aaron. She is my daughter. And those children, her children, are my blood as well." Aaron stepped closer, his tone darkening. You are blinded by love, my queen. The council will not accept her return. The people whisper already. If word spreads that the princess bore human offspring, it could destroy the royal bloodline. The queen's voice trembled, but her eyes did not waver. Then let them whisper. Let them judge me if they dare. I will not lose her again. Aaron bowed his head slightly, though his eyes remained cold. If you defy the council, your majesty, you risk everything. Your crown, your throne, your life. She walked past him, her gown sweeping across the marble floor. I risked all of that the day I became a mother. As she left the throne room, her advisor, Lady Celine, appeared in the corridor, her face pale with worry. Your Majesty, what will you do? The queen stopped before her. What I must. My daughter is out there hunted and afraid. I cannot sit on a throne while she runs for her life. Celine hesitated. But the council will forbid it. Aaron has already called for a formal assembly. He wishes to declare the princess a traitor. The queen's eyes darkened. He won't live long enough to finish that speech. For a moment, Celine saw not a ruler but a mother, fierce and unstoppable. Then I will go with you, she said. The queen shook her head gently. No, you will stay here and keep the throne safe in my absence. Tell them I'm meditating in the Temple of Stars. That will buy us time. Celine lowered her head. As you command. That night, under the cover of darkness, the queen changed her royal gown for a simple cloak. She removed her jewels, tied her silver hair back, and covered her crown with a hood. She looked into the mirror one last time. Not as a queen, but as a mother. From her private vault, she retrieved a small crystal blade, the same one she had once given to her daughter for protection. Now she would use it to defend her. Before leaving, she turned toward the balcony where she had once stood with her child years ago. The stars shimmered faintly through the storm clouds. Guide me to her, she whispered. Let the stars lead me where duty cannot. Meanwhile, far away in the forest, the princess awoke from a restless sleep. The cave was cold, the fire low. Kyle sat near the entrance, watching the shadows. She looked at him for a moment, the way his face softened in the flickering light, the quiet strength in his posture. Can't sleep? He asked softly, not turning. She shook her head. I keep thinking about her, my mother. What she must be feeling now. Kale looked at her gently. If she's anything like you, she's probably not sleeping either. The princess smiled faintly. You speak kindly, he shrugged. Maybe kindness is the only thing left that still matters. Their eyes met for a moment, a long, silent moment filled with unspoken things. Then the sound of thunder rolled through the night and Kale stood. We need to move at dawn, he said quietly. The soldiers are close. The princess nodded, though her heart felt heavy. As she turned back toward her sleeping children, she whispered, I will find a way, Daniel. I will keep them safe, no matter what it takes. Back at the palace, the queen rode through the secret gates with a small escort of loyal guards, only 3 men who had served her since her youth. The rain poured over their cloaks, thunder crashing above. When they reached the forest's edge, the queen looked ahead into the darkness. Somewhere in there, she murmured, my daughter hides and danger follows her like a shadow. Her chief guard turned to her. Your Majesty, if we're caught, she interrupted softly, then I will die as a mother, not a queen. Lightning flashed across the sky, lighting her face, calm, fierce, determined. She urged her horse forward, and as the storm swallowed them into the forest, 2 destinies, mother and daughter, began to move closer again, drawn together by love, danger, and the secrets of 2 worlds. The rain had stopped by morning, but the forest was still wet and heavy with mist. The air smelled of damp leaves and hidden secrets. The princess walked beside Kale, her cloak soaked, her children still sleepy and quiet. Every step felt heavier, every shadow a reminder that danger was still close. Kale moved ahead, scanning the trees. His eyes were sharp, his movements silent. The princess watched him for a moment. The way he moved with purpose, the way his hand always rested near his blade. She trusted him now, though part of her still wondered who he really was. Where are we going? She asked softly. There's an outpost ahead, Kale said. An old one. My people used it years ago. We can rest there and plan our next move. The princess nodded, her gaze drifting to the children. They were tired, but they didn't complain. Little Liana walked holding her mother's hand while her brother Arik kept glancing up at Kyle with curious eyes. Is he a knight? Arik whispered. The princess smiled faintly. Something like that. Kale turned and smiled gently. A tired night, maybe. For a moment there was warmth. A small laugh from the children, a rare smile from the princess. But then the sound of breaking branches shattered the calm. Cale froze. "Get down," he whispered. The princess pulled her children behind a tree. Cale drew his blade, his eyes scanning the mist. From the fog emerged figures. Soldiers dressed in black armor, their royal insignias half hidden under mud. A voice rang out. "Cale of the Outer Guard." Cale's grip tightened on his sword. He recognized that voice, Lord Aeron's captain. "They found us," he muttered. The captain stepped forward, grinning. "Your loyalty was never in question. Until now. Did you really think you could hide the Queen's daughter from us?" Cale said nothing, his stance ready. The princess stepped out from behind the tree. "Leave him alone. It's me you want." The captain smirked. "Ah, the runaway princess herself. Your mother must be heartbroken, or perhaps relieved." Kyle stepped protectively in front of her. "If you take one step closer, you'll regret it." The captain laughed. "You can't fight us all." Cale didn't answer. His eyes glowed faintly, not the glow of magic, but of something deeper. A mark on his wrist shimmered for a second like hidden energy beneath his skin. The princess saw it and froze. Before she could ask, Cale moved, faster than any human she had ever seen. His blade met the first soldier's weapon with a flash, disarming him instantly. The next came from behind, but Cale spun and struck, precise and silent. The princess covered her children's eyes. The battle was over in moments. The soldiers fell to the ground, the forest returning to its stillness. Cale wiped the blood from his blade, breathing heavily. The princess stepped closer, her voice shaking. "What was that?" "You're not human, are you?" Cale hesitated, his jaw tightening. "It's complicated." "Tell me the truth," she said, her voice trembling between fear and trust. "Who are you really?" Cale sighed, lowering his weapon. "I was born human," he said quietly. "But after the war, your father saved me. He gave me a second chance, an experimental fusion. Part human, part synthetic. I was his guardian prototype." Her eyes widened. "So you were created to protect him?" Kyle nodded. "And now I protect you." The princess looked away, her mind spinning. "You should have told me." "I didn't want you to fear me," Kyle said softly. "You already had too much to fear." Before she could answer, Arik tugged her sleeve. "Mama, someone's coming." Through the fog, another group appeared, but this time they carried royal banners. The queen herself rode at the front, her silver hair glimmering under the pale light. "Mother," the princess whispered, tears filling her eyes. The queen dismounted quickly, her cloak flowing behind her. For a heartbeat, they simply stared at each other. Years of separation, pain and longing caught in silence. Then the queen ran forward, pulling her daughter into her arms. "My child," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You're safe." The princess clung to her, crying softly. "I thought I'd never see you again." The queen held her tightly, kissing her forehead. "Nothing in this world could keep me from you again." Cale turned away, giving them space. But Aaron's men were not far behind. One of the queen's guards rode up quickly. "Your Majesty, we must leave now. The council's forces are close." The queen nodded, her joy turning to urgency. She looked at Cale. "You brought her this far." "Thank you." Cale bowed slightly. "She's stronger than you think, Your Majesty." The queen smiled faintly. She always was. But just as they turned to leave, an arrow flew through the air, striking one of the guards. The sound of horns filled the forest. Aaron's army had arrived. Kyle drew his sword again, stepping in front of the queen and princess. "Go!" he shouted. "Take the children and run!" The queen looked at him, her heart torn. "What about you?" Cale's eyes flashed with determination. "I'll hold them off. I owe Daniel that much." The queen hesitated, then nodded. She took her daughter's hand, pulling her toward the horses. The princess looked back once at Kyle, standing alone in the fog, ready to face an army. "Kyle," she cried. He looked at her one last time, a faint smile on his lips. "Keep them safe," he said. "That's all that matters." The queen and her daughter rode into the mist, the children holding on tightly. Behind them, the clash of steel echoed through the forest, the sound of one man standing against many. And as dawn broke through the clouds, the queen looked back toward the smoke rising from the trees. Her heart ached, but her spirit burned with a single vow. This isn't over. Not yet. The morning sun rose slowly over the forest, painting the mist in soft gold. The queen and the princess rode through the clearing, their cloaks torn, their hearts heavy. The children clung to their mother, silent and frightened. Behind them, the sounds of battle faded into distant echoes. When they finally stopped near an abandoned shrine, the queen dismounted, her hands trembling. She turned to look back toward the forest. Smoke rose faintly in the distance. Kale was gone, or so she feared. The princess stood beside her, her face pale and eyes red. "He stayed behind for us," she whispered. The queen placed a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder. "He gave us time," she said softly. "We must not waste it." They entered the shrine. It was old and cracked, vines creeping over the walls. In the center stood a crystal fountain, long dried but still glowing faintly with ancient energy. The queen knelt beside it, placing her palm on the stone. "This was once a gate between worlds," she said, "long ago before our war with the humans. Your father and I tried to restore it, but we failed." The princess's eyes widened. "You think we can use it?" The queen nodded slowly. "If the connection still lives, it may lead us to safety, or at least away from Aaron's reach." The children watched silently as the two women worked together, their hands glowing faintly as they whispered the old incantations. Light began to shimmer inside the crystal, soft at first, then growing brighter. But before the portal could open, a shadow fell across the entrance. Aaron stood there, his armor blood-stained, his sword drawn. His soldiers surrounded the shrine. His voice was cold and steady. "Your Majesty," he said, stepping forward. "You should have stayed in your palace." The queen rose slowly, her eyes filled with fury. "You dare raise your blade against your queen?" Aaron sneered. "I raise it against weakness, against the corruption that love brings. Your daughter broke our laws. She mixed royal blood with human filth. And you defend her?" The princess stepped in front of her mother, her voice trembling but fierce. "I loved him. He wasn't filth. He was good, brave, and kind. He saved me." Aaron's eyes burned with hate. "And now his memory will die with you." He raised his sword, but before he could strike, a flash of blue light cut through the air. A figure stepped between them, armor cracked, face pale but alive. Kel. He stood there, breathing hard, his sword glowing faintly. "You talk too much, Aaron." The queen gasped softly, tears filling her eyes. The princess covered her mouth in disbelief. Aaron laughed coldly. "So the machine lives." Kyle's eyes narrowed. "Maybe that's what I am. But I still bleed, and I still protect." He lunged forward. The two blades met with a clash that echoed through the shrine. Sparks flew as they fought. Aaron's strikes were powerful, but Kale's movements were faster, more precise. The queen pulled the children back, shielding them with her cloak. The princess watched helplessly, her heart breaking with every strike. Kale's armor shattered under one blow, blood streaking his chest. He stumbled but stood again. "You won't touch them," he growled. Aaron sneered. "You're dying, half-breed." Kale smirked faintly. "Then I'll die for something real." With one final move, Kale drove his blade through Aaron's chest. The warlord's eyes widened, his sword falling from his hand. He stumbled back, collapsing to the ground. Silence filled the shrine, broken only by Kyle's labored breathing. The princess ran to him, catching him before he fell. "Kyle, please stay with me," she cried. He smiled weakly, his hand brushing her cheek. "You're safe now," he whispered. "That's all I wanted." "No," she said, tears streaming down her face. "You can't leave us." "Not now." The queen knelt beside them, her eyes full of sorrow. "He saved us all," she said softly. Kyle looked at her and nodded faintly. "Your Majesty, tell Daniel." "I kept my promise," the queen's voice broke. "He would be proud of you." Kale smiled one last time, and then the light in his eyes faded. His hand slipped from hers and the shrine fell silent once more. The princess cried softly, holding him close, her tears falling on his armor. "You weren't a machine," she whispered. "You were the most human of all." The queen touched her daughter's shoulder gently. "We must go, my child. He gave his life so you and your children could live." With trembling hands, the princess took the glowing crystal from the fountain and placed it on Kale's chest. The light spread softly across him, not to revive him but to honor him. The glow rose upward, like starlight returning to the heavens. The portal opened behind them, bright, swirling with blue and gold. The queen looked at her daughter. "This is your chance," she said. "A new world, a new beginning. Go, for them." The princess hesitated. And you? The queen smiled sadly. My duty is here. I must rebuild what's left of our people, but my heart will follow you always. They embraced tightly, tears mixing with smiles. Goodbye, mother, the princess whispered. Not goodbye, the queen said softly. Just another dawn. The princess took her children's hands and stepped into the portal. Light surrounded them, warm, endless, full of hope. When the light faded, the queen stood alone in the shrine, the sound of rain returning outside. She looked up at the stars and whispered, "Be free, my daughter. Be happy." Outside, the first rays of sunlight broke through the clouds, touching the land with golden warmth. The long night had finally ended, and far away in another world, a quiet meadow under a blue sky, the princess stood with her children, the wind gentle against her face. She looked up, smiling through her tears, because somewhere in that light she could still feel him, Kyle, watching over them.